Video, there's a restriction I forgot to mention. It's not just within a certain distance of the border. You also can only put an amount of supply into any given space that's no more than twice the population controlled in the region, which means basically if I want to create, it was pretty easy to fit it under. I misread it, and I think I did no more than half and still managed to do it. So I'm realizing places that had like a population of 8, that are held, 8 held by the VC, I ended up putting 4 in. If you don't have the manpower, if you don't have the manpower in South Vietnam to place your pieces, though, you can throw them off on the trail and infiltrate them that way. And so, even if the U.S. manages to kind of get control of most of South Vietnam, there's still a potential for getting forces there. Now, I read someone's description saying that it becomes almost like a conventional war as you go into the game. I do not see that happening. The only way I can see that happening is if the U.S. is able to take up an area and reduce its population to basically entirely pro-SVN. And I don't think that's plausible, simply because the chart that affects this thing is so variable that there's a chance you're going to get a pro-VC population showing up any which way. And, now, obviously, when the NVA comes in, the NVA can be dealt with more like in a conventional war because they're not hidden all over the place. But when the NVA comes in, that's usually to support massive, massive uprisings all over the place, as far as I would consider the game. Now, obviously, different players might try things differently, but I'm looking at it with the historical perspective as well as what I've seen in my plays and kind of seeing that it fits together pretty well. I had a couple of rules clarifications I wanted to look up, and then we'll see if we actually can get started on the autumn. I don't know what was going on because I did look this up under the spheres of influence, but there's so many words that my mind must have glazed over, and I didn't find what I wanted. The Chief of Staff is the Corps Commander for Saigon and Gia Dinh, and I knew that. But he's also got all the independent ARVN artillery, which I did not know at all, and the Marine and Parachute Divisions, which is what I vaguely remembered. My Chief of Staff is decent enough that we made it here on this. But my Marine and Parachute Division leaders and the Chief of Staff, none of them are all that good, which means on a 4 or so, I don't get much stuff, and that's going to be somewhat problematic. Right now, it's all in play, though, so that's fine. Even though I kind of cheated by deciding to go further on the ARVN side of things based on this. I think I'm set and ready to go. It's so hard to get started on a turn in this. That's what you see. And I'm going to try to pull back and maybe not go into as much detail. Basically, there's a few ways I can play this. It can be putting an hour in for each season easily by zooming in and looking at particular combats regularly and everything, particular operations. But the game will go much, much quicker for me. And I find it more interesting to look at the narrative from a kind of higher level. One of the problems with doing that is that what you kind of see is, oh look, the U.S. has kind of cleared 4th Corps out over the course of the season, and maybe some discussion of where the population's heading and stuff like that, but you're not going to get as much detailed, view into the operation by operation blows. I know some people want to see every little action going on, more or less. To me, one of the beauties of a war game is that you don't that you can describe the narrative without that. This game, because of the interactive nature of it, it's a little harder to do. It's not like, oh look, you know, Fourth Corps moved over there and they're taking up a position on Cemetery Ridge. What? Fourth Corps. You know, and statements like that. I can't really make those broad statements, but I can say things like, it looks like the VC have been cleared out of the north, or something like that. Yeah, good luck with that. Look at this mess. Things beginning to come back. First of all, somebody, like I said, pointed out some things. One of the things he pointed out was that the VC, and I did not look this up, can actually start with trail points allocated. So in that pre-turn period, you can allocate them. I didn't see any indication of that when I was looking, but again, I'm bad at reading. I really am having trouble when I scan rules to figure out things. And this is a game that I kinda have not been reading in detail, because I have played it a few times. And that was something I had a question for, but I only scanned for it and couldn't come up with an answer. It may be present in, I think he may have even given a reference for where that rule was, but I'm not sure. But the other thing is, there's a little trick that you can do with the VC, which I forgot about. So like I ran into these places and ran away and got a captured capital out of it, you can also kind of set yourself up on them. And you get to run away before a real operation. But security operations can be deadly. So what you really could do is set up on like one or two of them. You can't do too many because, well, that's different. Last time I played, I worked things a little bit differently, where I tried to prevent security operations by sitting near the road in patrol in order to inflict zone of control costs on the U.S. I'm not really ready to do that yet. And I feel like that's kind of beyond... maybe it's just a different spirit that I'm playing with right now. I'm playing much more cautiously with the NLF to try, you know, especially with the U.S. coming in harder than I think I've ever played them. And some of you guys might be saying, I know one person was saying they like to throw in 50 right away. Wow, you know, that's a lot. I'd rather take a few hits, and I'm kind of feeling the same way with the NLF. I'd rather take a few hits, maybe lose a little bit of population than, you know, be too much of a challenge. Well, certainly here, I feel like there's enough U.S. on the board that I can't really afford to let them run through and do a security operation and just clear out a couple of my units. So, that said, because I'm not doing those kind of tricks, I'm not sitting on the capitals, etc., I don't see my VC being in any place that I'm particularly unhappy with them being. So I'm going to let the U.S. have the first operation, as is usually the case. Until the game starts changing in nature, I think that's going to be what we're looking at here. Looking at some of the U.S. operations or their allied operations, I realized, wow, I had to come in at the ports. I couldn't put the pieces where I wanted them. And that means I want to do strategic movement with all kinds of pieces. So actually I'm backing up and starting to do strategic movements where I need to, and we'll see where we go from there. In the case where I jumped in, I threw 1st Marine into play, dropped a couple of Arvin Rangers in there. I got 2 of them for this operation. I've got 4 of them on the board, so it's pretty likely I'll get some. That's going to make it really hard for this VC to get out of there. Getting pressed against the water. I got my cruiser in there, no free fire, don't need it. So I say, and let's see what we got. I may need a Riverine to get to him. So he's got just a +1. He's got 3 movement points. He's not going to get out of there. He's probably not big enough to fight with. Not at all. So there's one for the dead pile. Something else new. VC are going to fight this one. They got trapped here, but they're only facing a total strength of 6 with only 3 artillery. Seems like the U.S. is like, yeah, that's a political section. No, it turned out it wasn't. And, you know, there's no way that I will remember these things, so. Let's put this here. So I've got a total of 6 strength to 2 is 3 to 1. Which gets me a +3 to the die roll. So I get a 5 die roll. US doesn't take any hits. He's at 5, which puts him on the second table. He's going to take 1 hit. We're going to have a +2 pursuit roll. Now, +2 on pursuit, +3 more is 5 pursuit movement. So let's think about what a retreat's going to get me here. Because I'm trying to decide if I want to take the hit and run, or take the hit and flee the table, or run. So if I flee the table, I come out here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's all I can go. There's really nowhere else I can go. So he's going to be hitting with, what did I say, something like a +5 pursuit. If he only goes 1 hex, he probably will go 2. Yeah, +5 pursuit. Let's say it goes 2 hexes. That gets me another +3 on the table. Now, that cruiser's not in play anymore, so I might force the U.S. to bring things in. But they could bring in, you know, some ARVN artillery or something like that into the play. Or they could bring this unit in so that they could take ARVN losses. So I am going to take that loss as well. And instead of losing a replacement point, I gain 1 because there's 1 loss left. He still gets his 5 reaction, though, to go somewhere else. And it wouldn't harm me too much to put that somewhere close in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get his zone of control somewhere up there. And he's ops complete. Now, the VC unit is allowed to react to this and try to run away. I don't know that he's in a terribly bad place, but I also don't know that he's in a terribly good place. So he's going to run. Probably has a 6 movement anyway. 1, 2, 3 for the zone of control. 4. I'll just go to there. That's a little safer, and I can always run back in if I need to. Yes, I know I'm zooming in a lot more than I wanted to. I just feel like since we're seeing some actual bloodletting happening and stuff, I should show that. And now we've used both of our cruisers. I like to make sure to get my cruisers and my airplanes used at some point. However, the airplanes, those can be helpful, you know, as kind of a reaction type thing. So I don't want to eat those points up necessarily in quite the same way. But the cruisers, I want to make sure that I get them used. It's always annoying when you realize, oh, I did a couple of battles by the coast and shit, I didn't use my cruisers. Cute stuff. My artillery ended up, you know, coming in at ports, not quite close enough to do what I want it to. Well, I air mobilize it and move it in, and it supports that way. So, you know, getting into a stronger and stronger position. I have enough support to actually start doing things now, basically. But there are so many little toys, so many little ways you can play with your pieces. And it's all based on the configuration of the forces you have and everything. I'm not unhappy with what I've got right now. I feel like I'm heading in the right direction with the U.S. You can see I'm kind of clearing out the coastline here. As long as he's going to just use the trail, well, let's try to bottle him up, see if we can increase the population down here. So even if he sees supplies, he won't be able to create much down there. Maybe ARVN can take him out. What I find myself doing in this game is I zoom in on, say, one area, like here in 4th Corps, mainly down here. I'm thinking about what I can do. I see all kind of units. This is kind of like normal war games. I'm like, okay, I'll focus on this area, I'll move my way up the map, as I'm thinking about, as I work my turn progressively. But there are no turns here, it's pulsed. So if I do something down here, that may be an opportunity cost to do something somewhere else on the map. And it's especially the case if I'm using, resources that I might want to use elsewhere. If I'm focusing too much on maybe chasing this unit down in Anzuyan because I free-fired the damn place, and that feels like, wow, I really ought to get it now that I've done that. Well, maybe, maybe not. I'm having trouble finding something that I can operate with down there. Now I could air mobilize this big old unit. That would be very expensive. That would be 3 air mobile points. I don't know if I have that. Yeah, I do. But yeah, that's one of the problems with the Arvin units. They're whole regiments, and they're not as good as battalions of American forces, because they don't have the pursuit capability. They don't have proportionally as much firepower on board. They're not as fast, so they're not able to really do what they need to do effectively. They're really good at holding terrain, though. Especially when they're upgraded the way they are. Yeah, that's not what this game is about at this point, though. Maybe someday soon. Not soon. But yeah, by focusing down there, maybe I'm forgetting something important that I should be doing up here, that I've got forces. There's a couple of big stacks that I've got that I intend to do things with. Well, I ought to be thinking about those and figuring out what's the balance. Where do I want the next hit to be? As long as I'm just chasing down VC units, though, I'm not really doing much in terms of, like, there's not some overall strategy that I have a grasp on, I kind of have one down here. I'm trying to clear this area out, and it looks like I've done a good job over on the coast down here, Anzuyan being the exception. I was hoping to get that cleared out. I was hoping to get some of these cleared out. But I also have to worry about, trying to have some impact up here. And also keep enough in reserve that, if need be, if those VCs start coming into the cultivated areas, I can just blow them away. And that's kind of one of the things. These guys are up here. They're 2 points. That sucks. It's equivalent to a free fire. But this guy, these guys could just jump down into the cultivated area and score a couple of points just with 2 of them, And so by not doing something, I'm kind of forcing the VC not to score as many points as if I go expending a lot of resources chasing down a unit or something. And it's that kind of trade-off you've just got to constantly be holding in your head. And I've done a few operations, not many, 3, I think, 4, 5 down there, and I'm fatigued, And I mean, how many operations are there going to be now that I've got a fair amount of forces? There might be a couple dozen that the U.S. wants to perform. Whew, the turns do start to get longer. The first turn, I never know what I'm doing on it. Really different situation going on here. I've got an air point in here. I marked that by just putting a die around just to remind me. This unit gets a reaction move because there's a couple adjacent units to it. I'm actually going to move in and fight here because this is hills. There's a terrain bonus. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of artillery here. So let's see what happens. If I do get a reaction move, and if I get a good reaction, I probably just pull away. But this gives me additional forces if I can't get away, and that looks fairly likely. Oh, I forgot. I was interdicting. When does the interdiction get played? The interdiction gets played, let me see if it happens before the reaction move or after. That's kind of the issue here. Yeah, it happens after the interdiction. So this is an interesting idea. I may want this additional artillery if he's going to pound in there. And that can reach out to here. Or here. I think I'm actually not going to interdict because he reacted into fight. I'm going to want that additional artillery. So now I have 10, 11 points total of firepower to this. It would have cost me 6 to interdict there because I didn't free fire it. So let's see if he gets away. So he's got 4, 5, 6. Now this costs 3 to leave, 4, 5, 6. He could get away, but not very far. However, these will be attacking across a river, which I believe has a combat effect. I think it halves the strength. I'll have to look that up. But it makes it less likely that the U.S. will actually attack those units. I think they're going to, especially since I have some ARVN involved in this. We might get that done. These guys are out of the operation at this point because they're not going to be fighting, but I'll just leave them on the board for now. Minor river doesn't give any bonus. It's water, hexsides, and escarpments are the only things that give a hexside bonus. Oh, look at that. No, that's not an escarpment. I don't know where the escarpments are. There aren't many of them. Here we go. There they are. There aren't a whole lot of them on the field. So yeah, I'm definitely going to attack because I've got my artillery, etc. So I've got 10, 11 points of firepower and 6 points of attack. That gets me to 17 to 4. That hits me a 4 to 1. And we're fighting because, I don't know. I'm actually not sure we wanted to. We may have wanted to disperse here. That's a +4 on the table. However, the hills makes that +3. I've got air involved in this, which means I'm risking that as always. +3, 6. I do not get that hit. Okay, and now the 6. I've got 4 plus 5. Sorry, I cheated. It's 6. It's not 11 air points. It's 6, 11 and a half to 4. So that's only 2 to 1. So actually it was only +2, make it +1, so I got a 4. No, it's not natural die rolls. It can't be because we hit off the table. So that's actually problematic for the U.S., I think. The attacker has 6 strength points, which puts him here. I have to take a hit, so we're taking our first ARVN replacement point there. I certainly don't want to lose the Rangers for this. But on the other side, I've got an extra 5.5, so that puts that to 9.5, and you see why the halves are here. That's 1 point for the VC, and I don't want to take that as a destruction. And there's only a +1 pursuit modifier. And this is kind of the first time we've seen one where there's an opportunity for things to happen. So now he has a 3 pursuit, and these guys have 1s, which isn't very much. I have 6 movement points, 7 movement points here, so I can probably get away. It's possible that the U.S. could keep chasing, and here's the neat thing, I could throw more resources into the fight as well. So this is one of the few that is complicated enough at this point in the game where there might be things going on, and that's why we zoomed in on it a little bit. So I did indeed move those out, and now here's the thing. I have the capacity to air mobilize this, but that doesn't help me much. I have, every time I do an operation, I'm committing all artillery, because remember, if the artillery is not committed, if I don't actually use it, it's not actually committed. So I have a +3 here and +1s for these. These guys aren't going to help me much, but this guy at +3, if I commit an air mobile to him, he's a little guy, he can move there for 1. And I can add this artillery in. I could add one from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not going to help. But here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets me right in there. These guys aren't going to be in the fight, so I can pull them out of here. Well, yeah, They will not be in contact, so they don't stay in the fight. The artillery does stay in the fight, however. Okay. And now I've got an attack at 4. Plus 9.5 to 4. Still that 2 to 1. That's +2 to the die roll. But I have +2 more for my pursuit bonus because I immobilized him. So now I'm at +4 on the table, which is a little better. Of course, I don't have any Arvin with me, so this is kind of iffy. I get a 10. That's a big result, not necessarily a good result. I have only 4 strength points here. That's 1 US replacement. Ouch. But these guys have 9, and that puts them to 2. And so far, I feel like the VC is doing well enough here. But now I'm at a +6 pursuit with air mobilized units. I probably can't win this. So what I'm going to do instead is I am going to disperse both units. One of them takes the loss, the other one goes up there, and because of +6 pursuit, I'm in trouble now unless I start gathering all my forces together. And if I start doing that, all the US forces are going to start getting committed, and that's just bad. You do not want to extend operations for the most part as the VC, unless you're looking at an offensive. But at this point in the game, no. But I have 6 movement for the pursuits on these units. And what I probably want to do is protect that artillery. That's about all I can do, really. This artillery is not protected except by regional forces. Well, I guess I have them in the cultivated terrain. They're a little protected. The VC could go pick on it, though. To prevent them from picking on it, I'm actually, during the pursuit segment, I'm committing this. The operation's over. No, I can't. That's the problem with them dispersing, is the operation's now over, and I'm at risk. Fuck. I'm allowed, because I have a pursuit or retreat option here, to do this. I just found that. It specifies the U.S. player can call in reserves whenever his units are eligible for pursuit or retreat. Now, I can't add targets to the operation, but I can throw one of these Korean units up here. And that gives me a whole lot more defense. Because I was really worried that that artillery would go. It would be pretty easy to take out if these couple of units could get down there. Now, I'm not sure if they could. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one can't. This one, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He might be able to. So I'd rather protect him. I have more than enough ground units in that area. I don't have. I can't risk my artillery. Along with a fair number of operations, we're starting to clear out some of the VC down in 4th Corps. That was really kind of my goal, and you can see I'm using Arvin. I actually haven't used much more air power. I still have 7 left. All that artillery's helping. A few free fires, not many. I mean, that's the new one, really. One of the things, first of all, it's really hard. Like, you're like, do I pull the trigger or not? And I've kind of gone over that already on each operation. You look at it and you're like, I don't know what I'm facing. I don't know what luck I'm going to get in terms of getting my Rangers, in terms of, what I'm facing, whether or not they get away. Because if I put too much effort in, and if they don't get away, they just dissolve. And you can see I've caused 12 dissolution units, so far. That gets up to 30 and I start counting points, or is it 35? I don't know, one of those. But I'm making some progress on that. There's a chance I could get some body bag points there and start getting some national morale from that, which would be great. That's sort of the golden situation. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but we're making some progress on that. But outside of that, and the sort of innovative operation by operation action, which what they call operations in this really feel like much smaller scale things. When you think operations in an American Civil War or even World War II type of, or Napoleonic or World War II, you're thinking about large forces of armies operating together to gain some significant goal. Here the operations, you're looking at what is maybe just a skirmish, or whatever. It can turn into a big fight, but it's not likely to. This almost feels like it's a smaller scale than even operational, but an operational stance doesn't really make sense because this is such an unconventional war. So the operation is to clear an area, but there's no real force in that area in general. Yeah. So, but there's something very innovative and a lot of fun about each operation, especially when you're kind of getting in the pace of them. But man, there are a lot of them. And that's why it's such a long game. It's almost like there's a mismatch, in terms of, wow, I'm doing so many little tiny things here, there, and everywhere. And they don't really add up to the big picture directly. There's a layer in between, right? In between the strategic side of it, which is doing the calculations on the population, stuff like that. Stuff that feels very much like the level of, say, Fire in the Lake does. And then there's this really small scale level, which is very well suited and I think actually probably works pretty well on the little scenarios, even though most people don't really play this for the little scenarios. I think that game is nicely suited for the scale of the operations, but just the size differential between, handling this little search and destroy operation and then doing like 30 more of them across the map and then doing that all again, and finally you get to what was the strategic effect. I love that concept. I love when you're taking all the detail into something and it's feeding into something bigger. And this game probably does it better than any other I know of. But I'm also getting old. And the specter of my life is hanging over my head, and even more the specter of, because I'm not that old, the specter of games that are unplayed. And that, I really want to get those out there. And don't worry, I haven't lost heart or anything, but, yesterday I had a friend from online come visit and hung out with him for the day. Tipped a few beers today. Between work and everything else, I didn't really get a lot done. I didn't get much done in the game yesterday for obvious reasons. Even in my early morning time, I didn't get much done today either. And it's just like, wow, if I'm not putting a game turn at least and maybe a season away every day, this is going to take a long time. Assuming that I do well with the U.S. and get out to this 1975 or somewhere close to that. 11 years, four seasons a year. Let's call it 10 years. So 40 seasons, 80 turns, and turns are not an hour each. They're longer than an hour. So, if it goes the whole distance, this is gonna go significantly more than the 100 hours. My tendency to screw up with the U.S. probably means it'll be closer to 50, but we'll see. The big problem is getting the energy up to come play a bunch of these repetitive operations again and again and again, just to get to the spreadsheets, which to me are kind of the exciting part of the game. I know a lot of people aren't a lot of players are going to say, screw the spreadsheet. I've heard some people asking about the Compass game, Rumor of War. I know nothing about it, but if it's quicker than this, maybe. I mean, it's not like I don't have strategic games of Vietnam. Like I said, Fire in the Lake, Hearts and Minds. They're both good games. I love what this provides. I almost wish, that instead of all the detail, it was a little bit more like representational detail. I don't know. I don't know about that kind of abstraction, but it's like I'm just grasping at anything to make this seem like it could last a little longer. Yeah, did that kind of thing in role-playing games where I would, oh, how are the players doing? Well, that'll mirror what the overall battle that's surrounding them is like. Anyway, I'm not going to get through much time if I keep babbling. Back in the north didn't go too well. A little cluster like this I hit, like 3 units in a row or something. Well, one of them jumps into the other, ends up not getting an alert out of the way though. So you have this kind of neat option with the VC. If you cluster your troops together, you're allowed to do a reaction move. So like if I jump into this hex, all these guys could jump into it too. And then I can roll for reaction and scatter them or run them away if they have enough movement points. But otherwise they can force a fight that's maybe a little bloodier than expected. And that's what happened over here. Arvin ended up taking 1 replacement point, and then I pulled away with my... so the VC ran away, gathered up with another unit. I didn't have enough pursuit to keep going, and really don't have much artillery kicking around down here, so I didn't want to commit to anything there. So I covered and fell back. And then I left an artillery here. Now it would have been possible for the VC to get there and attack just that artillery. By doing so, they'd give an alert move to these guys, so they could throw in and support that. And that would have been hellish. So I'm like, nah, I'll wait where I am. I feel like I'm going to fuck up, though, pretty bad and end up losing an allied artillery. It's the one problem with the artillery. The air, it's not as cost effective, but you don't tend to lose it just by, not protecting it during an operation properly. And it's sometimes hard to see whether or not the enemy is going to be able to get a jump on you. Especially if they just vaporize. If they just disappear, they might be able to launch one right away. Like pretty close to the end of this player turn, or this turn or portion of the season. I think the U.S. is going to pass. I've got some units that could still operate. Not many. Got these paratroopers here. I'd kind of like to do something with them, but, well, maybe I should, because I've got a pile of air points there. So I think we got at least one more good operation in me. I went up north in order to see what would happen. And I also have the Marines down here. They can operate as well and maybe put some pressure over here. But I'm definitely beginning to feel like I'm getting to the end of it. We've got some big force movements with a division moving up here to deal with Tuyen Duke. And I think another division moved into this area, although it may have been conducting some search and destroy type operations to get there. But yeah, it just feels like the turn is winding down. Okay, at this point, I think I've done all my U.S. operations finally. Basically, I had a few of these, I'd really like to move this unit a little closer. I hate to use up a unit, but I have some reserves in play if the VC decides to do something. These guys maybe I need to move to. God. Because they're a little out of position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's get box complete there. But now, after I move a couple of these a little bit, I want to keep the command kind of together, although, they have an artillery near them. They don't have divisional artillery, but I just don't have a lot of power right there. I don't know what to do with them yet. But as soon as I do that, then comes the question of, do I have any big strategic moves that I want to do with the VC? They're not in any danger in terms of going into the next turn. or the next turn, because we're not. This is the first turn of the season, so I don't have to worry about trying to configure and make sure they have all the points where they want them to help sway the population. Although honestly, how much detail you want to put into that, but I hate wasting a point. Like if I have 3 units, like maybe the case up here in Quantum. No, it looks like I got 4. If you have like an odd number of units that are not in good terrain, cultivated terrain or better, you're kind of wasting a unit, right? So I like to make sure I get that all balanced out and get the maximum modifiers when I go to whatever the chart to generate those changes is. But right now, because the first turn of the season, I can look at more strategic viewpoints. For example, do I want to try to force march and get down back into this area? Or am I okay with the fact that the U.S. has kind of bottled me against the border in the 4th Corps? Or do I want to kind of give up 4th Corps and stop fighting for it? No. I want to keep the complexity on the U.S. But there's certainly places like down here where I'd like to get more emphasis down closer to the coast. I don't feel like the U.S. has a lot of power down here, and they're moving all their power up here. And if they put all their power up there, and this is kind of open, well, I can make life a little tougher on them by spreading out a little bit more. I feel like the VC wants to spread out. I've got probably way too much force in the north. There are advantages to having a lot of force in the north. That's the gateway for the North Vietnamese army to come in. I mean, yeah, I can march it down the trail, but I've already expressed why I don't really like to do that. Eventually I will. But yeah, it feels like over here, I've got a big area in central Vietnam, the 2nd Corps mainly, that's, not really being contested as heavily as I could. If I could get more force down there, I could get more population down there, and then I can build more force down there. You can see where the brown ops complete markers are. That's where the VC, where I decided to move them. And now they, nothing turned up that was an excellent opportunity. So I'm just going to say, and now they drop, the turn end on the U.S. Because the U.S. is just getting in the habit of, and this probably is even worse in 2-player, of just, yep, no, go ahead, move another piece. And then even if they had something that they kind of might have wanted to do, I mean, it's not like there aren't VC pieces that are available to do something if they need to. So no great opportunity is arising here, but you can see I'm oozing my way back into 4th Corps. Those units will probably get killed. It's dangerous to be down there, and there is, of course, the risk of the body bag count getting too high. Right now I'm at 14, I'm halfway, If I had the morale chart here, we could see it real quick. Each 5 destroyed beginning with the 30th, so yeah. But they're each only worth 1 U.S. morale, and the VC does, or the ARVN does not care about it. The VC, the NVA, none of them care about that. The only people who care about the body count is the U.S. So at this point, we're pretty much done. Yes, I did not use all my resources, but I used most of them. I got a couple of Riverines left, but all those numbers get reset. Nothing was lost. All the ops completes get removed, and then we start over, and we make the decision, hey, while we're removing the ops completes theoretically, but I usually do it separately, I make the decision, are all those holds real? Do I want to throw anything into patrol? One thing the VC did is they captured their 3 capitals. Now they can capture 3 more if they get a chance, but they grabbed 3 capitals just to make sure, those open things have been run through, as long as the U.S. isn't able to garrison everywhere on the board. And I can't pursue, combat operations without giving up capitals right now. I don't know what I have left. I have a fair number of armored and armored cav units under these other divisions as well. So the VC can eventually, or the ARVN can eventually get some decent garrison power up there. But right now we're setting up, and we'll move to second turn in the fall. Again with my initial operations down in the Delta, and I've cleared this area. I lost an air mobile point though. It happens. It's one of the things. There's not much you can do about it. If you're going to use them, you're going to lose them every now and then. And whether you go in hot or not isn't that big a difference. So, anyway, air mobilized some artillery. It didn't go in hot, and it got hit on a bad number. And basically, I took out one point of replacements, and I think that and a unit, a 1 point unit, basically chasing it all around down here. Quite a bit of chasing, actually. I don't know why this is here. Did I just move this? I think that's the unit I just moved. So this guy could like take off, and it might actually behoove him to try to make his way down if he can. I don't know if he's got that much speed. But it looks like there's space down there too, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to remember what I want to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's not going to be good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just push back a space. It gets hard to get through, when there's a cordon beginning to form. One thing that I'm noticing, though, I ended up using one of my boats on an ARVN activity down here, and I'm probably going to try to use another one somewhere over here. But it's something that happens to me quite often when I'm playing the U.S. is, oh look, the coastline. That's a little more dangerous. There's a little bit of firepower there that I can deny to the U.S. Let's get away from it. So anytime that the VC are getting a little weak or whatever, the coastline just gets evacuated, basically. Now, of course, that doesn't make a lot of sense when you're still fighting for Fourth Corps. There's a lot of space down there that's too close to the water, especially if the battleship's involved. But a couple of cruisers, I mean, what am I going to do? Am I going to run down here? I don't have any forces down there to cope with those units near the water. If I can get into this, but I'm having a hard time seeing a unit that can get there, except maybe the Capital Division, and that starts causing me all kinds of problems. If I move that in, maybe leave Bien Hoa, I don't know, or pull. I got an armored unit somewhere up here, maybe up here, or way up there, that I could slide down if I want to conduct an operation over here. That actually probably could make it even with regular movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 1, yeah. So that could actually drive right down, even with the zone of control there. But this is not the best thing in the world to use. It's a little big. I'm using ARVN units, but Free World Allies, the problem with them is they're as crappy as ARVN units, or maybe as crappy as good ARVN units or something. But I'm not using ARVN replacements, so unless I get some Rangers in there or throw an ARVN unit into the mix, I have just, caused a possible large loss in replacement points. More operations down here in the Delta, and you can see this guy kind of ran away. There were attacks against him. There were others where there were a couple attacks against him. Not much has changed there, but we had one big action happening over here in Phuc Long, which I free-fired, and managed to have a pursuit going into Cambodia, actually. And given that I was pursuing there and finally started getting some high die rolls, the U.S. took a couple of replacement points, though. No ARVN was involved in this. I couldn't get anything close by, but I had an armored unit chasing the VC into Cambodia. I had infantry artillery. Usually you don't see armor involved in things, mainly because although they have a good pursuit, I'm sorry, that wasn't the armor. Although they have a good pursuit number, they're not so good at going overland, but there was enough road around here that I was able to keep pursuing. I air mobilized my infantry and artillery. I only have one left. And managed to kill a couple of decent size, a 3 and a 2 VC units. along with taking some replacements down with them. I don't know if it was worthwhile. Big operations, I usually don't like having happen, like when you start calling units in. And I might have been better off not bringing the armored unit in with its 5 strength points or whatever, because that increases the potential costs here. So like when I got in the 10, that actually was a pretty good table, but you're guaranteed to take losses on it, well, once I got on the 10 column. But of course I could have gotten higher up. And that was sort of the last straw. When I'm getting a +6 pursuit, it's like, screw it, man. I'll just kill the units. I could have gone onto the trail, but I could have been chased onto the trail. And it was looking like wherever I went, the U.S. was not only going to be able to pursue me, but get a big enough pursuit coming out of it with the resources involved that, like, they weren't going to stay and invade it. I actually crossed over, I think, here where there was a disputed hex and was fighting them over here. And I was just like, the VC just, they can't afford to keep taking losses on that unit. The losses were big enough as it was. But on the other hand, I did do a couple of casualties to the U.S. And, it used up 2 air mobile operation points, which means there's less going to go on over here, I think, at least less in terms of pursuit. This is where the air mobilization really helps, but it's not bad in the jungle either. The main problem is where the VC are close to a road and you're not interdicted enough or whatever, and they can jump onto that road and speed away. But I was in a position where I could keep pursuing and keep getting something of a pursuit bonus, nothing too great. With usually the big payoff is not in the first strike on a unit, but on the second opportunity to hit it, which is why the units just keep dissolving, is because, oh look, you got a big pursuit bonus. You're going to be able to really whack me hard. Well, I don't want that to happen. Well, in this case, there were like 3 rounds of combat before the big pursuit came out. Usually it comes out better. I got some bad rolls. An interesting operation took place over here where the paratroopers came in with their headquarters, hit a stack, and this is one of the times when I would have liked to have caught it in video as I was doing it, because it was kind of cute. We had a reaction move into the hex, not enough points to run away. Free fire wasn't placed at that point, but you can place it in between rounds of an operation, so it was later free fired. Because it ended up that there were 2 heavy units there, two big red battalions, I think they are, right, of I don't know what they are, little guerrilla groups. They're considered battalions, yeah, of VC that actually inflicted like 3 casualties on Arvin. Okay, Arvin had plenty of troops there, but the problem was I didn't get a good pursuit number off of it. I got a crappy roll, which is why I took so much damage. But those guys weren't completely out of contact. I still had one of the Rangers in contact with them. So I brought in another Arvin brigade and another artillery unit. Not only did I lose the replacements, I also lost another air mobile point. So I wanted to make them pay, and then the next roll was a very good one, which got me to the top of the chart because of the free fire, etc. I got myself into better position overall. And now I have a lot of points, probably enough to get me back there. But basically, the VC could have continued to fight, but now they're at such a disadvantage because I'm looking at a +5 pursuit bonus that I'm like, well, between that and the terrain that I'm sitting in not being easy to maneuver in, screw it, I'm dissolving. Which is just how so many operations go. If it's not the immediate dissolution, it's like eventually the VC have to give up. They can't ever win. If the US player decides to keep committing forces, as long as they have things in the area. So, for example, 4th Corps, kind of out of resources to put into play. So if this hadn't succeeded, those VC might not, if I hadn't gotten a good roll on this, those VC might not have gone anywhere after that. So anyway, it's just one of the viewpoints of this. Now, with what, +5, I think it is? I think I'm at +5. That gives me 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Protect my artillery. And put myself into a good position. Yeah. Down here in what, Kengang? But the forces that are in Kengang, and now that's getting withdrawn, that's getting reduced quite a bit, these guys might be able to do a strategic move and get into, you know, another area where they're a little bit safer. Because this looks pretty bad for next turn. Not for this turn. And the free fire, well, that helps alienate the population. So, you know, I don't actually have to be there to necessarily get a good result from the VC, for the VC there. Oh boy, I wasn't planning on getting only a season in the vid, and it looks like it's going to do that and probably overrun. Hey, not unsurprisingly, someone pointed out a number of rules mistakes that I made, which I'm not shocked at all, but but one of them actually did surprise me a little bit. Most of them are pretty minor things. For example, leaders, when you bring new leaders in, you roll 2 dice and add 3, which explains the 5 to 13 range. And I kind of suspected that was the case. It's only the starting leaders who have kind of the, 2 dice plus 3, but with the limit, or 2 dice plus 2 with the limit, I'm not sure. But I don't know if I ended up with that because I got somebody up at 13. I think I must have, and I got one at 12 as well. So I think I did correct that. But another was, let me think. The Korean, he's right on every single one. The Korean units actually cost commitment. Jeez, I wouldn't have brought them in if I had known, because I don't know if they're worth it. I don't know quite what to do about that, and I'll figure that out in the, you know, across time if I can remember that I didn't spend for them and I was supposed to. Because what I might do is a temporary withdrawal. I can't find my fucking sheet. There's basically, each player has their own sheet, and their sheet has their player information on it. And I can't find my US one. There it is. No, here it is. Yeah, Korean or Thai regiments cost 1 each, which is the equivalent of a battalion. They're clearly not worth the same as US units. So I will probably have to withdraw them next turn, you know. Not permanently or something. I don't know, because they're just not worth the points if you pay for them, and it's one of the reasons I don't like using the free world ally units. And okay, but and I won't penalize myself. I'll have, like, the Koreans came and they'll still be available, you know, for further rolls. I'll put them aside or whatever if I do that. I'm trying to remember what else there was, but there was one big one. One that shocked me and is never how I've played the game. I may have gotten these other things right because, for example, I had thought that there was a +3 here constantly. I had thought that the Koreans were going to cost, but when I tried to look for them, I didn't. And that is units falling out of operations. I cannot find a rule to support this. But I have always played that way, which is, and this might be a painful factor for the US and part of what has hurt them, because the US take the offensive and add units more as they want. I had thought if something doesn't end up in combat, in contact with the enemy, and this wouldn't even make sense because of artillery, that it is no longer part of the operation anymore. And if nothing ends up in contact with the enemy, the operation does end. But as long as you have one combat situation to resolve, all the units that are currently on the board that have been added to the operation use that pursuit modifier. So you could have a lot of pieces that, can keep moving, keep doing stuff. And that kind of changes a lot about the game. And I'm not even quite sure how. I'm going to have to kind of relearn the tactics of the game because of that. The tactics that I'm used to using, which is jump on a piece and watch it, dissolve, might not work so well once the VC starts throwing more pieces in. Because if they're throwing more pieces in, it becomes very, very valuable for you to throw more units in because they can get there eventually, maybe. And a little lesson with the VC as well. Arvin did an attack on a unit here. It vaporized, just, disbanded. Because there were enough rangers and enough firepower that it didn't look like it had a chance. But I exposed a couple of artillery units there. So I sent one of my little VC battalions into play to attack the artillery alone. Well, they have a notional strength of 1 and all their firepower. There's no free fire here, so it's halved, but whatever. Plus they actually have the jungle bonus, which I forgot about in there. So I actually got an Arvin point back. But what ended up happening, and actually this was up higher too, right? Yeah, so actually one less of these died. But what ended up happening was they ended up, because this has very low strength and they didn't have artillery, basically doing no damage to it because the chart doesn't hurt you very much when you're small, and that extra artillery all gets added in. So they were like attacking at 1 to 3 with 5, 6 extra points of artillery on them, which put them on the 8 table. So actually they did take both losses. And I just took that as the unit rather than taking it as losses and stopping the attack, because then I would be stuck here a little too close. Didn't seem like the best situation to be in. But just as an example of, I'm here saying the artillery is kind of vulnerable, and I mean it kind of is, but not to a single VC battalion for the most part, especially one without artillery support of its own. Vulnerable is that it can't take a lot of replacement points. I think it can only take 1. I don't remember if I think you're only allowed to take the number of replacement points that you've lost. I would have to look that up. They have committed to the ground battle. I would have to look that up if that changes in any way that affects things. So far, I have not had to check that rule. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So I'll have to look it up at some point. Some kind of interesting stuff is going on, or went on. First of all, the Arvin Marines pursued a pretty ineffectual and damaging little operation down here against these 2 units. They were split up. They ended up gathering on the second part of the second operation coming down there, and that didn't get me much. And now I've got some U.S. Marines that are trapped. They fought a not particularly good battle, brought more units in, pursued a little aggressively, and are in a position where they can't get out of the hex, and the VC were able to bring another unit in. And this could end up very ugly for the US because I only have 9 replacement points left. This is probably the last operation of the turn and of the season, although I do have more artillery kicking around. Unless I have Arvin involved, and I could do that with the Rangers, I may not be able to afford another battle after this one. And this is very painful because I've already lost 3 replacements in it, and that's a big deal. Brought even more units in, and that I got away lucky. I didn't take any hits. It was a low intensity fight, I guess. Some of the die rolls end up causing no damage to anyone, basically. The VC took one hit. But they did pull out because I'm starting to get some bonuses on the pursuit modifier. However, those bonuses aren't high enough to pursue in the mountains. Remember, I got a -3 modifier to every attack. So even if I'm sitting on my full modifier here, which would be like +5, which is pretty cool, you know. And that would be only if I brought this in. So this guy would have a strength of 5 against like 11.5. So it would be 1 to 3. I'd be at -3, -6, +5. I'd be at -1. That's not really good because I don't have all my artillery in play anymore as he oozes away. And this big 7-point artillery, that's adding to his losses. Let me calculate and think about this though, because he's got a lot of strength. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. -1 would put me around here. I could probably do 1 to him, but he'd probably be doing about the same to me. So I'm going to call this operation over, and I'm going to try to pull back a little bit and protect my resources. The reason, other than the replacements to be afraid, I threw my air points in reserve in that. And wow, you know, now I'm kind of out of resources in case things get ugly. But I don't know, maybe I can take on something like that. But if it turns out a running battle, it's in the mountains, man, it's hard to dig them out of there. That whole operation was just a mess. Among other things, I screwed up the rolls. I shouldn't have been allowed to throw the air points in. Of course, if I hadn't thrown the air points in, the US probably wouldn't have kept going with it, and it would have ended up maybe less bad for them overall. So I'm going to leave that as it is. I got to remember that you can't throw air points into an operation except during the support phase, which is when the operation begins, which makes air points a little bit less flexible than I think of them as. I think scrambling some air support should be easier than, oh yeah, let's move that artillery and add it in, or calling more forces. You know, the way that, so I can understand something like this where a brigade or something can gather together and all kind of get called into the operation. It seems really strange to me that you could not call in air support on the same kind of short term as, because this operation could end up actually spreading across the map. I'm not used to seeing that, but with the fact that units don't drop out of the operation, which is new to me, you know, I've always played it wrong there, I could see an operation becoming much, much larger than they are. And if that's potentially the case, you know, if you're calling other divisions in and stuff like that, well, it seems like you should be able to bring, you know, get some air resources committed to something if it's expanding to something that large anyway. I haven't seen an operation get that big, and I'm not sure how big they can get. We'll see. And I've reached the end of the line in terms of what the U.S. wants to do. That was one last operation down here. One thing that I noticed with that operation was the mountains, while it could be very, very painful to fight in for the U.S., it's actually not that hard to trap the VC in them. Unless they can come running out of the mountains, unless you set something up so that, like, you know, they can go into clearer terrain. What happens is their bonus from the terrain, well, the die roll portion of their movement. Their bonus from the terrain allows them to move into the next hex, assuming that, you know, there's no zones of control or anything, which of course there will be if they're being attacked. But the die roll becomes less and less valuable. So, you know, if you're in if you're in mountainous terrain and you have a clear path through, you know, some good terrain, it's very easy to run away from the mountains and into the clear terrain, which seems a little counterintuitive. But if you're in really mountainous terrain, it's very hard to get away from those U.S. forces. They're going to most likely catch you. And so I didn't even conglomerate. I just took the 1-point unit and dissolved it when it couldn't get away. I think I'm done with the VC as well, which means the U.S., you know, gets another chance, but they might have missed that chance because, you know, they keep passing. The VC moves some units, like up here, just a little repositioning. And they seem to be working their way up the map with their repositioning. You know, they started there, did a couple up here, worked their way across. Now the VC passes. The U.S. might just say, you know, or the U.S. might be given the option, do you want to go? And they just say no, out of habit, more or less. I don't see anything that they're really aching to do either. Basically, if the VC had like moved down here where I've got some forces into the cultivated regions there to get more population conversion, you know, the U.S. might react to that. But again, I'm being very cautious with both sides as much as I can. This was not so cautious. That was an error. I'm not going to do the economic, or whatever you want to call it, part going into the winter here on this video because we've already gone over an hour. So I'm going to just load this one up. This is where we are right now.